We live in an era that worships the extrovert. From open concept offices to the relentless demand of the attention economy, we are conditioned to believe that visibility is the only metric for human value. If you aren't out there networking, posting, or partying, the world assumes you're falling behind, hiding, or broken. But there is a growing group of people who are opting out. The ones who let the party invitation expire without a reply. The ones who view a weekend with zero plans, not as a failure, but as a luxury. The ones who seem deeply, undeniably rejuvenated in their own company. Our culture is quick to pathologize this. We label them reclusive or antisocial. But modern psychology reveals something far more sophisticated. For these individuals, staying in isn't a retreat, it's a tactical maneuver. It's a biological necessity for high-level creativity and mental health. Today, we are going behind the scenes of the quiet brain to understand the profound psychology of social solitude and why the most powerful people in the room are often the ones who aren't even there. To understand the loner of 2024, we have to look back 50,000 years. While it's true that humans survived in tribes, the tribe was never a monolith. For a group to survive, it needed social butterflies to keep the peace, but it also desperately needed sentinels. Think of the individuals who were comfortable on the fringes. These were the scouts who spent days alone tracking migration patterns or watching the horizon for threats. While the social members of the tribe were focused on internal politics and hierarchy, the solitary members were focused on the environment. Evolutionary psychologists suggest that social selectivity was a survival mechanism. If everyone is busy talking around the campfire, no one is listening to the rustle in the grass. This trait has been preserved through the millennia because it offers a vital balance. If you feel a natural pull toward the perimeter of life, you aren't failing at being a social animal. You are fulfilling the ancient role of the observer, the person whose value lies not in the chatter, but in the clarity. There is a fundamental myth that being alone equals being lonely. Psychology calls this the loneliness paradox. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. It is a subjective feeling of being disconnected when you desire connection. However, solitude is the joy of being alone. It is a state of being alone with oneself without being lonely. Interestingly, research shows that people who rarely socialize are often less lonely than those who are constantly surrounded by people. Why? Because people who embrace solitude develop a stronger internal working model. They learn to self-regulate. Conversely, people who are constantly socializing often use other people as a distraction from themselves. When they are finally alone, they feel a deep, terrifying emptiness. The socially selective person has mastered the art of being their own best company. For them, 1 hour of deep, focused solitude provides more emotional stability than 10 hours of shallow social distraction. They have bypassed the paradox. They are alone, but they are the furthest thing from lonely. In psychology, we are moving away from the binary of introvert versus extrovert and moving toward a concept called social selectivity. A socially selective person doesn't necessarily hate people. In fact, they often love people deeply. But they view social interaction like a high-stakes investment. They are the venture capitalists of connection. They aren't interested in small talk because they realize that small talk is essentially a conversational placeholder. It fills the silence without providing any actual substance. For the socially selective, the cost of entry into their life is high. They aren't looking for a crowd to get lost in. They are looking for high-fidelity connections. They would rather have 2 friends who know the deepest parts of their soul than 500 friends who don't know their middle name. This isn't arrogance, it's a commitment to authenticity. We have to address the anxiety confusion. Society often groups the socially anxious with the socially selective, but neurologically, they are opposites. Social anxiety is an involuntary fear response. When an anxious person thinks about a party, their brain's amygdala, the almond-shaped center for fear, fires like a siren. Their body enters fight or flight mode. They stay home because they are trapped by fear. Social selectivity, however, is a preference response. If we were to scan the brain of a socially selective person looking at a party invitation, the amygdala remains quiet. Instead, the prefrontal cortex, the logical decision-making center, is active. They aren't staying home because they're afraid of being judged. They're staying home because they've simply calculated that reading a book or working on a project offers a better return on investment. One is a prison, the other is a palace. If you want to know which one you are, ask yourself, if I were guaranteed that everyone would love me and nobody would judge me, would I still want to go? If the answer is no, I'd still rather be home, then you aren't anxious, you're selective. Extroverts are generally less sensitive to dopamine. They have a wide reward system that requires massive amounts of external stimulation to feel a buzz. They need the loud music, the unpredictability of a crowd, and the constant feedback of others to get their brain to fire. For an extrovert, solitude feels like a low battery mode. The socially selective brain is the opposite. It is highly sensitive to dopamine. For these individuals, a little bit goes a long way. A crowded room doesn't feel exciting, it feels like a chemical assault. It's like trying to listen to a whisper in the middle of a hurricane. The secret to why some people rarely socialize lies in their neurotransmitters. It's a fundamental difference in how we process reward. Instead, the quiet brain thrives on acetylcholine. This neurotransmitter is linked to the parasympathetic nervous system. It rewards us when we turn inward, when we engage in deep work, and when we contemplate complex ideas. While the extrovert is hunting for a dopamine spike in the outside world, the selective person is cultivating an acetylcholine flow in the inner world. They aren't missing out on a reward. They are simply accessing a different, more stable currency. We also have to talk about sensory processing sensitivity. About 20% of the population are what psychologists call highly sensitive people. For an HSP, the brain's volume knob is turned up to 10. They don't just hear music, they feel the vibration. They don't just see a room, they notice the flickering of the fluorescent lights, the scent of someone's perfume, and the subtle tension between two people in the corner. Socializing for an HSP is an act of extreme multitasking. Their brain is processing 10 times more data per second than the average person. By the time they've been at a dinner party for an hour, they have reached cognitive saturation. When they retreat to solitude, they aren't hiding. They are literally allowing their nervous system to cool down. Solitude for the sensitive isn't a hobby, it's a biological reset. Without it, their brain begins to glitch, leading to irritability, chronic fatigue, and emotional numbness.